Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is wonderful seeing you up here every morning and knowing that there are those of you who are joining us online. It's very, very cool every week to know these things. And I know lately I have been just jumping right into our talks. We've taken a deep dive into some really important stuff. But I think you have earned a break from that. So I'll give you a more lighthearted beginning. This is actually something truly profound to think about, and I'm not kidding here. This is called if. If you can live without caffeine, if you can be cheerful, ignoring aches and pains, if you can resist complaining, if you can understand when your loved ones are too busy to give you any time, if you can take criticism and blame without resentment, if you can ignore a friend's limited education, Mike, this one's for you. If you can ignore a friend's limited education and never correct him or her about our PowerPoint presentations.
There's only one point.
Yes, I know, you've pointed it out, and I'm going to continue to pluralize it forever. If you can resist treating a rich friend better than a poor friend, if you can face the world without lies and deceit, if you can conquer tension without medical help, if you can relax without liquor, if you can sleep without the aid of drugs, if you can honestly say that deep in your heart you have no prejudice against creed, color, religion, gender preference, or politics, then you have almost reached the same level of spiritual development as your dog. Because there's so much truth in that, right? I read through that because, I Google things. I'm like, that's fun, funny stuff. And I saw that and I went, no, that's actually really deep. That's actually really, really deep. And we have been working really hard to focus on only that which is happening as it's happening. No looking forward or back, right? Not simply enjoying, but adoring every moment. And we've stopped judging ourselves and others in all of the great many forms that those judgments take, and there are many. And as I've been telling you for every one of these past 13 weeks, we are digging deep into 4 very specific concepts in a very specific order. And each of these concepts are the exact obstacles we and everyone we know place in our respective and therefore collective paths toward living from that perfect Godness inside of us. When we're all dealing with our individual ideas and beliefs and thoughts and then turning up the volume on all of that noise surrounding those ideas and beliefs and thoughts so that we can't think clearly, we sometimes struggle to see that the path to a divinely perfect place exists. And unless we learn to silence that noise, we may not take even a single step forward. This week we're moving into our 3rd concept. I've told you that I know who's responsible for turning up that inner noise so loudly and making us feel so disconnected and separated from everyone and everything all this time. And I promised that we would continue learning how to grow and expand. Ergo, we move into ego. In order to do that, one of the first things we need to clearly understand is this thing we call the ego. To put it as simply as possible, the ego is a thought system that we, each and every one of us, all on our own, we made it up. I don't remember where this came from, but it's really quite accurate. The ego is a wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. And that can be a big detriment. We'll get there. Just you wait. The truth is, though, and I need you to hear this, it really, honestly is the truth, that you are perfect. You are unique, and you're irreplaceable, and you are breathtakingly beautiful beyond measure. and so is everybody else. Somehow, the universe has wrangled me into trying to explain ego in a way that makes perfect sense to everyone, then guide us all through the perfect process of getting it out of the way so that we can see the truth of the perfection surrounding us in every moment of every day, so that we can see that every moment of every day is, in fact, perfect. And I trust that the universe has exactly the knowledge I need to do those things, and that it will dump that knowledge into my brain at precisely the right time so that I can bring my carefully written notes up here every week and share them with you. And so far, the universe has absolutely delivered that in every way. Case in point, the other day, I think it was Friday, I was talking on the phone with Maggie Bryant. And if you don't know who she is, you'll see her. As soon as I'm done talking, she's going to get up and she shares incredible insights into what we're tackling. And because she has to write from that material, she asked me to clarify what I meant when I said that we're tackling ego. And I was able to do that for the most part, even though there are many different explanations of ego that we humans know of are anything but simple. I mean, there are so many different profound thinkers who have come up with ways to describe them that are so far removed from others. So it's a tough one to quantify, but I think I was able to make it make sense. Now, do you remember last week when I told you that the original idea of covering these 4 specific concepts in this specific order wasn't mine? I told you that they landed in my brain perfectly formed and came right out of my mouth before I realized what I was saying. And yes, I am aware that you are aware that I spend a great deal of time talking without my brain being involved, but do not let your knowledge of that distract you from my point here. That same divine download thing happened while I was on the phone with Maggie. I said something to the effect of, we had to get into the now and stop looking backward first. Then we had to get judgment out of the way before tackling ego, or else we'd hurt ourselves by blaming and shaming ourselves for our past thoughts and beliefs and behaviors that we find ourselves identifying with during the exploration, and we'd be more stuck than ever in ego and judgment and in our minds. I didn't know that's why we did it in that order until it came out of my mouth. And I went, oh. So as we go through the next 5 talks, if you find yourself identifying with a particular concept we're talking about, please do so without looking too closely at the past. And if you do look, definitely do so without judging your role in past events and situations. It is gone. There is nothing any of us can do to change what's already happened, so nothing constructive can come from shaming all over yourself about it now. Okay? Hold your right hand up and repeat after me. I solemnly swear that from this moment on, I shall not should all over myself,
I shall not should all over myself
or others, in church or elsewhere, so help me God. Okay, you feel better?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, take a deep breath, and now let's dive in. Over the past few months, I've shared a whole lot of amazing stuff with you from Leonard Jacobson. So you won't be surprised when you hear that I'm inviting him to our ego party too. And he'll undoubtedly have a great big presence throughout all 5 of the talks. On page 20 of his book, Life Beyond the Ego, A New Beginning for Humanity, which, by the way, if you're not familiar with Leonard Jacobson, that, in my opinion, is the best jumping off point. What do you think? Ulf introduced me to him. Is that a good jumping off point, this book? Because it's very clear. He says on page 20, I teach a very simple and direct two-step path of awakening. Step 1 involves learning the art of being present. To be present is simple and immediate. You just bring yourself present with something that is here in the moment with you. But to remain present is not so easy because we are continually pulled out of the present moment back into the world of the mind. That is why step 2 is necessary. Step 2 involves bringing conscious awareness to all the ways that you are involuntarily pulled out of presence. And presence here is with a capital P, signifying the state of true reality. The reality of unity with ourselves and all that is. The reality of the unity with ourselves and God. Present is lowercase, right? Presence is uppercase. Okay, he continues, it also involves bringing conscious awareness to all that is still unconscious and unhealed within you and all the obstacles to your full awakening. Be with that for a second. Bringing conscious awareness to all that is still unconscious and unhealed within you, and all of the obstacles to your full awakening. Step 2 leads to healing and a release of the past, which in turn allows you to settle more deeply into presence, capital P. Step 2 eventually leads to mastery of the mind and ego. And those are a whole lot of amazing words, which, when strung together in that particular order, mean profound change. And I love that for all of us. So let's begin. And because we need to find shortcuts to get into the now, to get into the very moment here, and out of our minds so that we can really learn everything we can from the material in these talks, I'm going to offer a quick practical approach each week for stepping into the experience, no matter where you are or what you're doing. Not just here, but anywhere. Everything in the present moment is constantly inviting you to be present with it. If you are eating, you can be present with the taste and texture of the food. You can be present with the fragrance of a flower or the perfume in a room or the scent someone nearby is wearing. You can be present with the feeling of the wind upon your face or with the wash of heat upon your skin as you step out of this nice, cool sanctuary into the heat of this bright Los Angeles summer day. You can be present as you wash your hands or wash dishes. Be present with the cool or warmth of the water. Be present with the fragrance of the soap. Take a moment to really look at the sink or the faucet or that plate or cup that you're washing. Have the sense that you're seeing it for the first time. Whenever you feel that recognition that you are having an experience which is in your mind, whenever you feel the recognition that there's so much going on around you and you're not noticing it, it is your higher self inviting you to re-enter reality, to re-enter what is actually happening where you are. I found myself in that state of recognition Friday night during movie night. If you've been around here these last few days, you may have noticed that it is suddenly quite uncomfortably hot outside. In probably last 4 days, it was okay, it was tolerable, but the last handful of days have been more than I like. And because it's hot outside, it means it's often warmer than we'd like inside. And for some reason, my body has been experiencing widespread, itchy, prickly, extremely uncomfortable hives lately, which don't like the heat. So Friday, movie night, everyone in my household was busy. Everybody else I knew was busy. And so I was here all by myself, and my hot little itchy self was setting up chairs and putting away tables and buying all the snacks and setting those up and hanging the signs and bringing the monitors over and getting everything in place. So basically I was up on my feet running in and out of buildings, which when it is hot is not what you want to be doing, right? And then, so I got here about 2:30. And about 5:30, I think poor Mona and my youngest son Luke walked in at right about the same time. And I was feeling overwhelmed and itchy and cranky, which is really weird for me because I can't remember the last time I got cranky. I was cranky. And I knew it, and it was icky. And I was like, I don't like this. And in one perfect moment, I realized, although I wasn't thinking about anything in particular, I was absolutely not focused on anything that was happening around me. I was ticking off the tasks on my list of what needed to be ready before the ball could successfully roll, and I verbally acknowledged it right out loud that my mind was everywhere but here. Said it to you, Dan. Remember that? But then I slowed my roll, and I took a look around. And when I saw that everything was well with everyone who was here for the movie, I sat down, and I felt myself kind of unfurl. My shoulders unbunched, because they were up here. My shoulders came down, and my spine lengthened, and all of a sudden, I dropped into this beautiful moment. Fully engaged. And I could see that everything that was happening was exquisitely beautiful. When we can learn to recognize opportunities like that, where we're overwhelmed and uncomfortable and maybe cranky and itchy, when we learn to recognize, wait, I'm feeling this way because I'm here. I'm in my mind doing mental stuff, and that's why I'm overwhelmed. That's why I'm cranky. The itchy, I have no explanation for, but I'll let you know when I get it. But the cranky, yeah, that's in your mind. When we can recognize those opportunities of crankiness and distractedness and avail ourselves of them, the instantaneous shift into clarity is incredible to experience. Listen to what your mind is saying. When it feels overwhelmed and perhaps a little cranky, it's asking you to enter into presence. Now back to Leonard Jacobson on page 25, he says, step 2 of this teaching involves bringing conscious awareness to all of the ways you are pulled out of the present moment. What are the obstacles to presence? What is unhealed or unresolved within you that keeps you in the past? What holds you in the future? If you are to truly awaken, you will have to accept full responsibility for all the ways you remain in the illusory world of the mind and the many ways that you are pulled out of presence. And I'm going to interrupt him here to point out something which we absolutely must make ourselves remain aware of as we move out of ego. Notice that he said, you will have to accept responsibility. He did not say, you have nobody to blame but yourself. Shame on you. He did not say, how could you have done that? Or that's wrong, or any of the very many other ways that our egos work to negatively impact our feelings. He said responsibility. It's up to you to make the choice to move past the past, to release all of those emotions connected to experience and the ways that we've allowed them to shape our present method of being. Or you can choose to stay right where you are, no matter how uncomfortable that might be. It's safer to stay in the confinement and discomfort or limitation of what you know, many believe, than to expand into the uncertainty of what you don't know, even when you're promised. No, even when you have an ironclad guarantee that what you don't know is full of wonder and joy. That is an unfortunate commonality in humanity. We have a fear of what we don't know. But I challenge you to try that ironclad guarantee. Step out of what you know and into this with me. As Jacobson says on page 26, the ego is the custodian of the separation. And to anybody who studied psychology, that's a profound sentence right there. It's the custodian of the separation. If you are caught in the world of the mind, which is a world of separation and illusion, then the ego is in control. If you are to awaken, you will have to get to know your own ego. You will have to recognize all of the ways that the ego functions and maintains control over you. You will have to know why the ego is so resistant to presence and how to overcome its resistance. You will have to enter into right relationship with ego. Otherwise, you will remain forever imprisoned within the world of the mind and its endless chattering thought. And I'd like to share with you this story from his book. Again, that is Life Beyond the Ego by Leonard Jacobson. Definitely highly recommend that. And I found this particular story and his approach absolutely fascinating, and I think you'll agree. He says, one Tuesday at an evening teaching session in Minnesota, I had the following interaction with Jennifer, one of my students. I attended one of your events a few weeks ago, and then I listened to the replay every day for 3 or 4 days. She said, I was very present while I was with you, and I was present while I was listening to the replay, and then I just got attacked with anxiety. I felt crippled. I couldn't get out of bed. The more I tried to be in the present moment, the more anxious I became. The fear and anxiety were not coming from you, I explained. They were coming from your ego. If you become too present, the ego will react and try to pull you out of presence. It is afraid of presence. Again, that's with a capital P. What is presence? It is God. She began to relax a little. I would like to ask your ego a question. May I speak to your ego? She agreed, and I continued. Jennifer's ego, when she was present, what were you feeling? Abandoned. Abandoned. Did it even feel like you were disappearing, ego? Yes. That would create a lot of anxiety for you, wouldn't it, ego? Yes. What are the chances that you will allow yourself to disappear? 0, answered the ego rather forcefully. Would it help you to know that you are not disappearing in any permanent way? I asked. If I believed you, it would be helpful. Did it even feel like you might have been dying? I asked her ego. Yes, it was very scary. That's too much for you, isn't it, ego? It's crippling. Does it also feel like you are losing control of her? Yes, and I must be in control of her. Why? Who will protect her if I'm not in control of her? What might happen to her if you're not in control? Well, nobody would like her. She would be all alone. How old was Jennifer when you came into her life, ego? 3. Was she feeling lost and alone at that time? Yes. So you came in to help her? Yes. Did you help her to repress all of those painful feelings, ego? Yes. Why? It was too much for her. What happened next? Well, I had to take over. It's my job to make sure that she doesn't feel the pain of being separate and alone. And how do you do that? What's your strategy? Suppress her needs and make sure she improves, replied her ego. Then people will like her and she won't be so alone. I thanked Jennifer's ego for sharing so openly and honestly with me. I then asked Jennifer to come to the front of the room and sit on the chair next to me. I asked her to make eye contact with others in the group. As a part of her healing and awakening, it is important that she is honest and open about her feelings and any unmet needs or hidden fears. For as long as these things remain hidden, there is no opportunity for healing and releasing the past. As long as we continue to allow our ego-driven barriers remain in place, there is no opportunity for experiencing anything more than the surface of what is possible in this human life. In your programs, there's an insert titled The Mindfulness Exercise of Ego Dropping. I borrowed it from the Zen Habits website, and I believe that it's a really wonderful kind of first baby step toward recognizing what our ego is, how it's operating within us, and how to begin to create distance between our ego and our divine God self. Please try to practice this for a few minutes every day this week so that when we return here next week, we'll be wide open and ready for another step toward paradise, because that's where you live. Once you drop the ego and relax into a wide open, gentle, loving awareness, it's not a myth or the magic of man. It is what we speak of in the Lord's Prayer when we say, on earth as it is in heaven. Heaven on earth. And it is right here, right now. It is only right here, right now. And that's where it will always be. Come, walk with me. Let us explore. Thank you.